Today's chapter, God's transformative grace. Hypnosis. Into Samuel, we explore how God's grace in our lives moves us from paths of conflict to peace. In King David and the Apostle Paul, we find profound examples of renewal and restoration and imperfection. Read to Samuel 20 to 24. In these final chapters of 2 Samuel, we explore the twilight years of King David's reign over Israel. With his final words, David reflects on his journey, giving all credit to God for his victories and survival. David started out as the youngest son of a large family. He had no royal aspirations, but God altered his path. David's rule, although marked by significant achievements, also dubbed profound missteps, notably his abuse of Bathsheba and Uriah and the ensuing personal and political fallout. Yet David recounts experiencing God's boundless mercy and restoration. He acknowledges that his story is part of a larger divine plan, one that seeks to graciously transform individuals regardless of their past or perceived insignificance. God not only opens a path forward through divine grace, but also brings restoration to every part of our lives. What we perceive as weaknesses or dead ends, whether it's a career setback, a strained relationship, or a personal struggle. God can transform into strength and possibilities. The opposing force to grace is the expectation of perfection. We strive for a standard we can never achieve on our own and feel overcome by shame when we fall short. But God doesn't write us off for mistakes and is infinitely patient with us in the process of restoration and redemption. No one is too far gone or too small. So to be part of God's divine plan, which manifests its wonders through even the most unexpected sources. If we think of God as a bridge builder, then God's grace is the bridge itself, sturdy and reliable, spanning the gap over the vast and seemingly uncrossable ravines in our lives. With God's grace at our bridge, no obstacle is too great and there is always a way forward. The Bible is filled with stories reflecting God's transformative grace. The Apostle Paul, once the persecutor known as Saul, speaks of his divine transformation. Firstly, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take my struggles away from me, but he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for any power is made perfect in weakness." After immense and unexpected suffering, Job is restored to prosperity and joy. Amidst his ordeal, Job felt hopeless and forsaken, but he comes to understand God was by his side all along. God's restoration highlights that no purpose of God can be thwarted, teaching us that God's redemption plan is often beyond our understanding. The ministry of Jesus, as recounted in the Gospel of Luke, likewise extends this vision of divine grace through healing and marginalized, loving his enemies and eating and associating with so-called sinners. Jesus presents the profound paradigm shaft of the gospel, moving us from strict adherence to the letter of the law to a spirit of love, forgiveness and inclusion. In Jesus' example, we come to understand that God's grace not only bridges but also rebuilds. Grace is more than a mere second chance. It is a lifelong restorative process, turning every challenge into a testimony of faith and every individual story into a chapter of candor, narrative of salvation. Let us hold these truths close as we navigate our own valleys and peaks, knowing that with God every end can be a new beginning. May we move forward with faith, trusting in the perfect architect of our lives. Amen. Now let's take time to reflect, take a moment to meditate on what it means to be human, what are our limitations, how do we fall short, then reflect on the human ability to change, grow and heal. Secondly, think of a time when we experience shame. How might we invite God's grace for you into that moment? And thirdly, consider how God is able to build people, keep people accountable while offering them grace amidst mistakes. How can you offer the kind of grace to the challenging people in your life? Now let's end with a short prayer. God, thank you for your grace which transforms our weaknesses into strengths. Let us trust into you to rebuild and renew us and help us begin again. Amen.